some feedback recently that there's a good number of people in the group that just purely trade um, a straight call or straight put. They don't really use different option strategies. And so if you're just running a straight call, straight put, going just one direction, then it's not necessarily so important what kind of tool you use. I mean, you can use pretty much any tool and that'll let you buy a call or buy a put and you go from there. But one of the things that really helps with options is the fact that you can leverage different strategies. And Tastyworks, beyond a doubt, is the best, the most powerful tool um, to really analyze different types of option strategies and options trades and kind of make sure that you're actually on the right track, picking the best strategy, maximizing your profit. Um, yeah, and a lot of people who do just buy straight calls and puts, like you say, um, they don't do the other strategies because they're not really familiar with them. And if you're trying to do them in Robinhood or something like that, you're not going to be able to visually see what it is that you're playing, whether it be a butterfly or an iron condor or any of these other types of advanced option strategies. It's difficult to see why you might choose one of those. And you can paper trade them inside of Thinkorswim. Thinkorswim has some, we're going to do a class on Thinkorswim as well. What I did in the beginning and what I still do a lot now is I will set up my trade because my IRA account is in TD, it's in Thinkorswim. So I have to execute my trade when I'm doing it in my IRA in Thinkorswim, but I'll set up the trade in Tastyworks so I can get a visual. So I can kind of understand, okay, these are my profit zones. This is where I want to be on this iron condor and build it the way I want to. And then I'll go to Thinkorswim. Yeah, and a lot of people are really familiar with Thinkorswim, so that's easy for them. Executing in Thinkorswim is very easy, but it's not as visual and it's not as easy to see what you're doing before you execute it as it is in Tastyworks. So I'm going to go through Tastyworks a little bit from the basics on forward. And because I love Tastyworks, I think it's a great platform. A lot of people, and I think it's just because they don't understand some of what's going on inside of Tastyworks and why it's built the way it's built. But interesting note is that Tom Sosnoff, the guy that created Thinkorswim, is the same guy who actually created Tastyworks. And so after he sold Thinkorswim to TD, he went on to create Tastyworks. So a lot of the great things that are in Thinkorswim are in Tastyworks as well. But Tastyworks has kind of taken some of the analyze. There is an analyze tab inside of Thinkorswim, but it's fairly visual. It's pretty good, but it's not nearly as good, nearly as visual as it is inside of Tastyworks. And so I love Tastyworks for that. I really like setting up my trades in here. And it has really quick executions. One of the things I've noticed, and I've traded a lot inside of Thinkorswim and in Tastyworks. I do think that their mobile app could use some help, but it's not. Their mobile app isn't designed for people who are executing just quick day trades, buying a straight call or put. It's really designed for people who are doing strategies. And so when you use it for that, it makes a little more sense why it's set up the way it is. But the desktop platform is phenomenal either way. So I'm going to show you some settings changes as well and how I've set it up to make it even faster and to make it easier to use and some of the ways that I do use it. But I want to first kind of go through some of the basics of the tool so there's a good general understanding of everything that's going on. So first of all, inside of Tastyworks, when you log in, this is pretty much the way the layout loads up by default. You've got three panes. You got this, your symbols list over here on the left. You've got kind of your main action here in the middle. And then you've got some extra, an extra pane over here on the right that shows you some different things. And I've noticed when I've watched the Tastyworks channel, they actually hide that, but I actually really like it. And I think I like it because I do actually execute a lot of very quick, just straight call and straight puts. And it's faster for me to do that inside of here. But you can hide it up here with this little arrow and it'll hide that so it's out of the way. So if you want to see a bigger chart, you can just see a bigger chart, and that's kind of nice. But I find this sidebar actually pretty useful, so I leave it up unless I'm trying to get a big chart. It actually, you can trade a lot of different strategies just straight from the chart inside of Tastyworks. And the fact that you can do that inside of Tastyworks really, to me, just makes it even better. I mean, you think about other platforms like Robinhood, and I only mention that because so many people have come from that. But there's no chart, there's no real good desktop platform. If you're serious about, especially day trading, it's very hard to do that inside of other tools. And the way that Tastyworks is set up, once you kind of get comfortable with it, is actually very good. So just starting up here on the top left first, we've got your recent symbols. So anytime you go up here and you change a symbol, you just type it straight in over the symbol there, and it pops up, and then it'll show up as a recent symbol over here. So you can just always go back and see your recent symbols very quickly just by clicking on them. And then below that, you've got your watch list. And I've pretty much always have this on my daily trades, which is just the symbols that I tend to look at and tend to trade the most. Most of my trades are really around SPY, SPX, and Nugget. And every now and then I'll play some of these other ones, but I do keep an eye on them, and I like to peek in on them a lot. So this is your watch list, and there's different watch lists that they have preset that are pretty nice too. So for example, if you just wanted to get a idea, and this is something you have to run a scan for in Thinkorswim, and it has to be live during the day, but they have manually added this list under the preset watch list, like high options volume. So if you just want to see a list of stocks that have high options volume, just to see if there's anything that you want to kind of look at, that's a good way to go through that. One of the other presets is kind of nice, is just liquid symbols. So this is basically every symbol that has a high liquidity, which just is basically to say has plenty of options, open interest, and volume enough to actually play options on it. And so that's one of the reasons to love this platform. It is option centric. So if you are playing options, you don't necessarily care about all those other symbols that you really can't even play options on. So the presets really help with that. They've got a few others like fast movers and 52-week high, 52-week low. So there's a few like that. That's kind of nice. And then below that, you've got your own that you can set up. And so if you just hit the little gear icon above watch list, then you can go over to list, and you can add a new list and create as many different lists as you want to in there. Okay. And if you have an existing list and you want to add something to it, you just type it in. So let's see. I don't know if Amazon's on there. Type it in, hit enter, and now it's in my list. And if you want to delete it, you just click on it and then hit delete button on your keyboard, and it's out of there. So that's watch list. Is pretty easy. The other way that you see watch list is in the middle on these tabs along the left side of this middle section. There's this little, I don't know, it looks like a stack of books or something. You click on that, and that'll show up your watch list right here, and it gives you a little bit more information. Now, one of the cool things on here, if you're playing SPY, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're playing some other stocks or if you're just interested in the liquidity, because liquidity is a huge thing as far as how you're able to trade it. They actually have a liquidity meter by stars on here. So I've played the ES futures options, and you can see there's some liquidity, but it's not that great. It's only 2 out of 4 stars there. SPX is 3 out of 4. Obviously, now some of the other ones like Coke, amazing liquidity. SPY, amazing liquidity. Apple, the ones you would expect. So that's nice to have that liquidity ranking there. And then also, you got this correlation to SPY. So correlation to SPY gives you an idea when I'm trading something, is it going to move with SPY? And so there's some interesting things to note here. Netflix, it's a component of SPY. It's part of the NASDAQ, but it really, as far as its movement, is not hugely correlated to SPY. It's only a 37 out of 100. SPX is 100, obviously, because SPY is a derivative of SPX. Nugget is zero correlation. It's not correlated to SPY at all. It's correlated to gold and the junior miners index. Gold is only 24% correlated to SPY. So these are just some interesting things to note, when, especially if you have positions on and SPY moves high in one direction or the other. How worried do you need to be about that? And if you're holding Netflix or Tesla or gold, then you don't necessarily need to be too concerned about that. But if you're holding Facebook or NASDAQ or something like that, the Qs, then you kind of need to be worried about it. So it's a nice little thing in here. And you can look up, I won't go through every little column that they have in here, but you can look up some of these different definitions. They have the dividend yield, the beta, all that stuff is right there. So that's watch list inside of Tastyworks. It's pretty useful. I keep it up. It's nice to just be able to click and go back and forth. All right. Then on the top bar, first thing here is the symbol. If you want to change it, you just click it, type in your symbol, bada bing, bada boom, you switch symbols. And that's always linked throughout the system. So it pops over on recent symbols, and then it's over here on your right-hand sidebar. The right-hand sidebar is sort of a tool for whatever stock you're looking at. So the right-hand sidebar changes as well with that. And then up here, you've got some different stats. So IV rank, last executed size. You've got the dollar amount change, the bid, the ask, the bid and ask size, the volume for the day, and some different information about it. Some other things will pop up here, like for instance, if we do Nugget, if you're trying to go short on the underlying itself, it's telling you that this is a hard stock to borrow if you want to go short. It's not, we play options, so we just go short with the options, but that's just some other information that's there. All right. One thing I want to point out here, and I've got, because IV rank is listed here, but I've also got it listed on the columns on my watch list, is, and by the way, if you want to change those columns, hit the little gear on top of the watch list, and you can change what columns are displayed or not displayed just by clicking and dragging them over. It's really, really simple. But I like having the IV rank, and here's why. IV is implied volatility. You can see what the implied volatility is on the trade tab for whatever date that you're looking at. So like for instance on Nugget today, pretty high volatility on Nugget right now, 91%. But is it really high volatility? When I see 91%, is that historically, is that really high or really low or average? You know, so how do I know if it's really high or really low? That's what the IV rank does. So basically, most of the time, the lower the IV rank is, the less important it is. Okay, and as IV expands past what it's normally at, then the IV rank will go up. So, and that's why you see a lot of different numbers. So like for instance, CRM. CRM doesn't have earnings until November 26th. So their IV rank is only 18. Some of these other ones that have earnings coming up sooner, you can see their IV rank is higher. The kind of the rule is that anything over 50 is something that you don't really want to buy option premium in. Reason being, because that's an exceptionally high IV rank, that means that chances are pretty good that that implied volatility is going to come down. And so you're going to see some volatility crush. So if you're buying options, buying a call or buying a put in something that has a high IV rank, you're in danger of being on the wrong end of IV crush. It is, however, a good environment to sell premium into. So especially if it's over 50 and you sell premium into that, obviously if the IV rank goes down because you sold option premium, then you benefit. You actually want the IV to go down. So the implied volatility is something very important to watch in options. And it kind of tells us right now volatility, like for instance in SPY, is pretty low. Okay. Now, obviously today's expiration is higher volatility as today's expiration. But SPY is pretty much always on a normal day around 12 to 15%. And so you can see here, that's where we're pretty much at. Friday's expiration is 12%, pretty low volatility on the 28th. You know, and really with the Fed meeting next week, some of this stuff will increase for next week's IV ranks. So that'll probably increase after after Friday. But this is pretty normal. So you can see the IV rank is only 14 on SPY. It's pretty average. If, let's see, Microsoft, which had earnings today, you can see for Friday's expiration is at 63%. Now overall, Microsoft throughout is pretty normal on the rest of its expiration days. You know, normally Microsoft's between 25 and 35%. Next Friday's expiration is a little bit higher, obviously, because it'll be coming out of earnings. That'll come down. This for the Friday and next Friday's expirations, these volatilities will go down. You'll see a little bit of volatility crush. And as you get to know the underlyings that you're playing, you'll pay a lot more attention to this implied volatility. All right, so let's move on to some of these other tabs on the left. So you have your, starting at the top, you have your positions. So this is showing you what positions you have. You can show the closed or not. You can group it by symbol or not. I like to group it by the symbol. You can show your working orders or not. You can show only stocks, only options. So if I take off options, obviously I have options on those. It's just kind of a neat way to quickly look at the list of positions you have. You've got the trade tab, which is your options table, but also is the curve. And I'll go over that more in a minute. You got your recent activity. So if you want to see the trades that you've already made, whether it be today and yesterday, or if you want to go back further, whatever you want to do, you can see all your trades there. We went over watch list. Tasty Trade, if you want to watch Tasty Trade live, you can do so here. Just hit I agree, and you can actually watch Tasty Trade live, which is kind of cool. Then you've got the chart, and I do look at the chart in Tasty Trade a lot, especially if I've got other stuff I'm watching inside of Thinkorswim. I might leave something up here that I can watch and glance at. I was actually doing that today with Nugget. I was playing Nugget, and I was watching SPY and Thinkorswim, but I was playing Nugget over here on this screen. And so let's talk about the chart a little bit. The chart is actually really good. So I'm going to go here to the 1 minute, and let's just do 2 days on the chart. Okay, so it's a 1 minute chart, just like you would kind of expect. It's very easy to use. It's got this tooltip up here. You've got a lot of data. Not a ton, nothing overwhelming, but you've got enough. And you notice that on my chart, I've got the 3 indicators that I usually watch. These are indicators that I've been using for a while: money flow index, the MACD, and the momentum. And so this is when I scalp on the 1 minute chart, these are the indicators that I kind of watch. And so if you want to add indicators, you just go up here to the little gear, or I'm sorry, you go over here to the where it says indicators actually, and you can look up whatever you want to look up in here. And then you double click it to add it to your indicators. And then once you have it added, you can click on here and you can change any of the parameters: length, style, color. I use Bollinger Bands, and I have my own setting for Bollinger Bands that I really like. I use the Wilder's moving average for Bollinger Bands because, let's face it, if Wells Wilder invented it, let's use what he would use. Style, I like the dashes around the outside, and I like a certain color. So anyways, you can change all that right here inside of the indicators. It's, I would say it's a pretty simple interface. It's definitely not going to have some of the more advanced things. You don't have like ThinkScript that you can go in here and build some of your own stuff. But if you're wanting to see moving averages and money flow, RSI, volume, all that sort of stuff, it's in here. You can decide if you how you want your volume to show up, all that sort of good stuff. So all that stuff's under indicators. And then the obviously you've got the time frames that you can change. You can change the candlestick style. Don't know why you do that, but some people do. You can look at your other chart settings. So if you want to change colors, if you want to hide certain things on the chart that you're looking at, all that sort of stuff. The defaults here are normally pretty good, but if you want to change anything there, you can. You can change how your crosshairs look on here. Okay, and so if you want to carry the stats with you or whatever it might be. Okay, we'll leave that pretty simple. And there are drawing tools in here. So I showed you that just a second ago on SPY. You can actually draw on the chart, which is very useful. It doesn't resize, I think, really like I would like it to sometimes to some of the drawings, but that's okay. It's not my main chart drawing tool. So and to zoom in and out, you really just scroll the wheel on your mouse. It's pretty easy. Or you can use this up top to zoom in and out. And if you want to get rid of a drawing, you just click it and then hit the delete button on your keyboard, and then it goes away. So the drawing tools are kind of basic, but they're pretty good. You've got price level, you got time level, lines, channels, and you got a few other things there. You've even got some Fibonacci lines. So you've got some basic stuff, but some easy stuff to use. The chart in here is not bad. It's really good, and it actually updates pretty quick. Okay. You've got your transaction activity. So this is what you would use if you actually wanted to see with commissions exactly what you were, and let's just look, so I'll show you. So you can actually see with commissions and fees exactly what each trade was, right? So you can actually get a to the penny idea of what your cost is. And then the little group follow thing here, you can follow some of the Tasty Traders trades, and then you've got help down here. Okay, so good enough. All right, so I think I explained that pretty well. We're going to go over the positions in the trade tab a little bit more in depth here in just a second. But I want to go over the sidebar over here on the right because I use this a lot really quick, and then we're going to integrate this into the trade. So the first tab on the sidebar that I keep up all the time, really, I really don't use these other ones for myself. You might, but it gives you the overview of whatever stock it is that you're looking at. So if you're over here looking at the chart, you can see some other information, but this is really good for when you're on the trade tab. So if I'm on the trade tab and I want to look at a chart at the same time, boom, it's right there. And I can see the bid and the ask and some of the other little stats that I might need to keep an eye on over here on the right as well. You can also see your positions that you have on it and some basic stats on your position. And then the biggest thing that I use right here is the orders. So I can see all the orders, and let's actually go to something that I have been trading. CSX, actually. Well, McDonald's. You can do McD. Okay. All right. So there's, including canceled orders, there's all the orders I put through. I love using this. I absolutely love using this. Let's go with something that maybe I trade a little more basically. Okay, so you can see where I got filled on CSX there. Let's see, did I trade? I haven't been trading in my Tastyworks account for SPY because I've been using it for the other trading strategies. But you can see what we got here. So let's see. All right. So there's our orders. We'll take out the canceled and just look at what we actually filled. Then you've got the analysis tab. This goes along with the analysis on the trade. I don't really use this a lot as far as the tab over here, so we'll kind of skip it real quick. You can get another view of your watch list if you want to. I don't really know why you would do that unless you want to look at two different watch lists because you got it over here on the left. You can see your activity, which is great, but that's also part of the overview tab, so I don't use it over here. I do sometimes use the alerts because you can create alerts really quickly right here. And so that's one feature that, like for instance, Robinhood doesn't have alerts. So this is alerts right here. I've got a pending alert right here on SPX, as you can see. And I can add something here for that if I want. And you can actually watch Tasty Trade live over here if you want to. Okay, so they're really big on their media, but that's basically it. So that's everything as far as the layout of the platform, where everything sits and how it's laid out. It's a lot to look at first. It's a lot to digest. Where Thinkorswim is a lot to digest as well. But one of the things about Thinkorswim is you really don't even know how much is in there until you really go digging into the different tabs. What I think they did a good job of with Tastyworks, but it can feel overwhelming, is they laid everything out pretty much right in the open. And so you pretty much see it right then. All the analysis tools and everything that you need. That can be scary to some people that don't understand what's going on here, and I certainly didn't when I very first opened up Tastyworks, but it's actually very quick, and that's the main thing. It's very quick for me to see. So let's go and look at a trade. So if I am on CSX, for example, and let's just say that I just want to buy a call and that's it. That's all I want to do. All right. So it's very easy to go into the trade tab. Right here's your option tables. So let's just open up an option table here for October 25th. We have, I can limit it. If I don't want to see all the strikes available, I can limit it to just see, like, for instance, 12. And that tightens up the window a little bit. And here's my trade table. Now, a few things that you won't get inside of Thinkorswim, and this is where the trade tab inside of Tastyworks is way more visual, much easier to see a lot of information. And a lot of people don't realize what these things are. But the very first thing that you see, obviously, is you've got calls on one side, puts on the other side, just like every other option table out there on every other platform. So calls on the left, puts on the right. We got how many days to expiration and the implied volatility right here. So when you're looking at this implied volatility, the way you read it is this is the implied volatility for this expiration. The W here means it's a weekly expiration. And this means with that implied volatility says that the options are telling me that by October 25th, Friday, the option activity is saying that this stock will move 91 cents. Up or down, not sure, but it's going to move 91 cents. That's what the option activity is telling me, okay? That piece, along with some of the other Greeks, is how they build some of the other information that's on this option table right in front of you that a lot of people don't even know is there. So first of all, this orange line right here, and it's not really a line, it's like a shaded area, but this orange shaded area right here, that is the 91 cents. That is the expected move based on the volatility. So when you're setting up a trade, you know, okay, am I inside of the expected move or am I outside? That comes into very important play whenever we do an iron condor or a butterfly or something like that. It's very important to know if you're inside of the expected move or not. So that's the orange shaded area. The other area, these dashed lines, the first set of dashed lines, blue right here, it might be hard to see on the WebEx, but the dashed lines that are kind of right above and below the expected move area, the first one is one standard deviation. One standard deviation represents 68% of the possibilities for the stock to move. And sometimes it's very close to what the volatility is saying the expected move, and sometimes it's not. If we look at, like, for instance, Microsoft, okay, we're going to have to go a little bit wider on the strikes. You can see it's a little bit further out, and that's just because of how volatility is. We look at Twitter, okay, you can see how it's a little bit wider there. Look at CRM, okay, you can see there's a little bit of space. Some of these, like CSX, where the volatility is very low, this changes the standard deviations and what that all is calculated on. What that means to you is that when we set up an iron condor, for instance, I want to make sure that my iron condor has the calls and the put strikes outside of the expected move. Because if I want to keep that credit of whatever it is that I'm trying to collect a credit on, what I don't want to happen on an iron condor is for the price to touch one of the, or go outside of one of the sides, the put or the call side of my iron condor. I don't want that to happen. And if that does happen, then I lose money. So it's very important to me to know that, okay, I can set this up to where 68% possibilities are already calculated in one standard deviation. 94% of possibilities are calculated in two standard deviations. And two standard deviations is the second set of dashed lines on the top and the bottom. So that's what these little lines are. And then you have the one in the middle that tells you which options are in the money, little ITM there. So, and the little arrow tells you, okay, well, everything to above here, that's in the money on the call side. Everything below here, that's in the money on the put side. So you can very easily see what's in the money, what's not. So that's everything inside of the option table. Kevin, since you're the one on, my man, if you got any questions at any time, just pop them up. All right. So that's the option table. Now you've got a lot of this stuff up at the top. Oh, one more thing on the option table, actually, before I leave that. I've got delta and theta listed on my option table. If you want other things listed here, for instance, volume, all you got to do is click on delta and you can change it to anything else you want. Net change, we can go to volume, we can go to, let's leave volume there and change our theta to open interest. So now I can see volume and open interest on my option table. What they didn't do, which I sometimes like and sometimes don't, to keep it clean is obviously why they did it, but they don't let you add extra columns here. You're just going to have the 4, the bid and the ask, and then 2 other ones that you can add to it, volume and open interest, or there's a huge plethora of other columns. They're all there, but you're just going to need to select them. In the money percentage is a great one. This is sort of like what I was telling you with the volatility. It's telling me the percentage likelihood that this is going to be in the money. And if you're selling premium, that's very important. That also tells you the probability that the stock is going to touch that. All right. So then let's go over some of the stuff up top here. And I'm actually going to turn off analysis real quick because you don't usually see that. All right. So that's everything up there. Now you've got this drop down at the top. And this is your strategy builder. So you probably, a lot of people don't know what all these different strategies are. If you do, then you'll feel right at home. If not, then you can kind of play with it and it may not make a lot of sense, but what's cool about it is that you can actually, and I'm going to pull up Tesla since we made a play on Tesla. We had a earnings play on Tesla and that stock moves a lot. So we're going to have to go to all. All right. And look at the volatility on Tesla. Obviously this is kind of increased at the end of the day here, but so if I wanted to choose one of these strategies, again, if I really wanted to buy a call, let me back up a second because I did not actually show that. So let's say that I wanted to buy a 275 call on Tesla. I'm just going to go down. I've got my October 25th expiration and I'm going to go down the 275 strike on the call side. If I click on the ask, that's going to highlight this green, expecting me to buy that. If I click on the bid, it's going to highlight it red, expecting me to sell that. So that's saying I'm going to sell premium. I'm going to sell the 275 call, which I hope you didn't do. Or I'm going to buy the 275 call by clicking on the ask. So I click on the ask, and then it brings up this little order menu. So it's saying, okay, here's what you got. You've got one October 25th, 275 call, buy to open, BTO. The price that it's picked here for me is the mid price at $2.54. It's got a range down here, it tells me, between 250 and 259. 254 is the mid price. This is going to be a limit order, or I can make it a market, or I can make it a stop limit or stop market order if I wanted to. So you can set up stop orders in there as well. And do I want to make this just a day order, a good till canceled, whatever you want to do there for the time and force. And the other thing, you've got tools here to move your order. So if I wanted to move the strike up, I can do that, move it to 280. Or if I want to move it down, I can do that. You can also just click on it and drag it if you want to change whatever strike you want to pick. Here I've got the 275 strike picked, okay? And it's telling me that I've got a 84% chance based on the options, what the options tell me. I got an 84% chance of making money on this, okay? You're buying a straight call, straight put, your chances are going to be fairly high. It's going to go down as you go further away from the current price, which at close was 254. So the closer you go to 254, you can see the higher percentage of profit. That's what POP is, percentage of profit. The higher that percentage is, and the further you get from the current price, the lower it goes. It's just simple math, right? And that percentage of profit is calculated at expiration. So if I let this 275 call expire, it's going to expire in the money, and that's what you would want, right? Because that's when it's going to be worth the most. All right, so I'm going to go over some of this other stuff in a minute when we build an actual strategy up. So that's how I would just buy a call, and then I would hit review and send. I might want to change whatever price. So if I want to make sure I get filled, I may go closer to the ask. Or if I want to place my order at the bid, I can place it closer to the bid. Hit review and send. It's going to tell you, hey, this is what we're doing. I've got I got a few positions still on in this account, so I don't have enough margin for that, but it's going to tell you, okay, this is what we've got. This is the trade cost. These are the commissions, buying power effect, and then you send your order. Okay, and I can't do that, obviously, so great. But that's it. Or I can go back and edit it if I want to. All right. Let's say that I wanted to do something a little bit different. So let's say I wanted to buy the 275 call and I wanted to buy the 235 put. All right. So now you can see I've got two option orders. It's one order, but two options selected. 235 put, 275 call down here on my ticket. And so my total mid price on those two is $5.40. Now, what changes here? What you've noticed that may or may not have noticed is I've got these areas that are shaded green and red now. And what that is telling me, what Tastyworks is telling me, is that if the price of the underlying stays in this red zone, you lose money. So between 280 and 230, you don't make anything. You're losing money. So if I was to buy the straddle here on 235 and 275, then I'm going to lose money unless the stock goes over 280 or goes under 230. All right. And so that's a good visual, when you're doing something more than just buying a straight call or straight put. Now I've got a visual. So if I move this closer to the current price, you can see my profit zone gets bigger. Move the 235 down, and you'll see that the green is following. Now, if I've got a $10 wide call and put here, obviously the price of that, the cost is going to be higher. But instead of going below 230 or over 280, I've tightened that up a lot. So I've got a higher chance of profit. POP, P-O-P, probability of profit is 80% now. Just to show you how that works, move this to 275 and 235 again. Okay, I've got an 81% chance of profit. So that's telling me, and options is mathematical. You don't just have to buy a straight call or a straight put. It's mathematical, your chances of success. So anytime you're lining up an advanced strategy, instead of just counting on the stock to go up or down, the strategies will actually help you because it can maximize your probability of profit, increase your chances to make money. Even if you're capped on that, how much you can make. In this case, our max profit is infinity, so we're not capped. You are capped because Tesla isn't going to go to 2,000 tomorrow. Okay, so let's just be realistic. But technically, you're not capped. Excuse me. With some of the other option strategies, you are capped in how much maximum profit you can make, but you can actually increase your percentage of actually making a profit. All right, so let's clear this ticket and let's go into something more advanced. Okay, so we're going to go to our strategy builder here, and you can see what I've got. I've got verticals, strangles, straddles. I can buy a option just straight. I can do an iron condor, a covered call, a butterfly, jade lizard calendar, or just buy the stock. Okay, so what we were doing was this right here. So we could go long the call option. Okay, and that's just going to pick a call option, and long means we're just buying it. Okay, I could change this to a short and all you do is just click over that and it changes it. So you can change your strategy just as quick as that. You can't do this in Thinkorswim or other platforms, which is why this is really cool. It's really, really fast. I want to go short the puts. Go. And it changes it to where now I'm selling a put. Okay. I want to go short the calls. Just like that, it's changed. Okay. So it's very quick and easy to make a strategy out of this. All right. But let's pick one of the more advanced strategies. So what we did today on Tesla was a butterfly, all right? And we went long the call side with a butterfly, okay? And there it builds me a butterfly right away. Now, if you don't know what a butterfly is, we can kind of go over it, but I want to, this will show us visually exactly what's going to happen. You can see that now I've got a lot of red to the top and the bottom. And so on my butterfly, I'm targeting 255. So what this means is on my butterfly, if the stock price is right here around 255, I make money. If it's higher or lower, pretty much you lose money, okay? Now you can widen your strikes and you see that green line changes. Now I'm targeting 260, but because I've widened my strikes, if the stock is between really 270 and 250, I'm going to make money. My maximum profit is going to be at 260. I'm going to show you how to see that in a second, but you can see how the profit zone changes as I move my strikes. And this is how we build a strategy with options and really know exactly how we're going to make money. Butterfly is a tool to target a certain price. And so this gives me a way to kind of do that and see exactly, okay, well, if that price point isn't met, what's going to happen? All right. So let me set up here exactly what I set up today. So today we did a 275 target. And let me get those because I didn't do it in Tastyworks. Let me get exactly what I had targeted there on Tesla. All right. So we targeted 267.50. The 275 and the 280. All right. So this is what we targeted. And I'm going to move these around and kind of show you why I targeted that and how I use Tastyworks to decide. You can see that this trade right here has a 91% chance of profit. Okay, so statistically speaking, it's earnings, so anything can happen, right? Tesla could have went completely the opposite direction. But statistically speaking, I've got a 91% chance of profit. The 1% here, the P50, that is the probability that you will reach 50% of your maximum profit. So why does that look so whack on this? Why isn't that P50 higher? See, if I move it up just one strike, my 50% likelihood of getting 50% chance of my maximum profit, which right here, maximum profit is $674, is 39%. But you can see I've got red to the top. So the price would have to land exactly between 270 and 280 for me to get that profit. That's why the probability of profit is only 12%. But if I just move that top call strike down $2.50 to 280, now my probability of reaching 50% of my max profit goes down, but my probability of making a profit altogether is 91%. Because this is earnings and because the stock is Tesla, and we have no control over what happens with the price overnight, we can't adjust overnight. I didn't want to be stuck in a position where we wake up tomorrow morning in this butterfly and like Tesla stock is right now it's at 306. We wake up and the price is way down here at 306 and I lose money. Even though my assumption was right that Tesla was going to go up, the price actually went way outside of my targeted strike here at 275. So I lost money, even though I was right that the price would go up. And that's what's amazing here that I can see that you can't see in other platforms. So what I did is I literally just moved that strike down one, and it gives me a bigger profit zone here, a much higher chance of making a profit. And so even if Tesla goes outside of the expected move and way overshoots, like it did, way overshoots my target here at 275, I can still make money. I'm not going to lose money if that happens. We did a butterfly on CRM, and because CRM doesn't have earnings right now, I didn't worry about that, right? Because it's not as volatile. But Tesla is volatile anyways, but it's got earnings on top of it. I didn't want to be caught on the wrong side of the position with a good assumption. All right, let me show you what that looks like with the curve on the table mode up at the top. Table is what you normally see by default, but if we click curve, it changes it, okay? And this is the coolest part of Tastyworks. If you're doing advanced strategies, especially if you're trying to learn and understand what in the heck you're doing, and if what you're doing is going to make money, it takes a minute to kind of digest this, but this really, really, really helps set up option strategies, butterflies, iron condors, anything else that you want to set up, and in a visual way that you can actually see, okay, this is where I'm going to make money. So when I go to the curve, I always turn on the analysis, and you can see what it does here. Now I've got a curve on the top, curve on the bottom, the curve on the and then you've got this pyramid right here, because that's the top of this, the peak up here is my maximum profit zone. And you can see the little flag here is telling me that P&L at expiration at the top here is 674 bucks. All right, use your scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in a little bit, and you can see what it's telling us. This orange curve here is when I wake up tomorrow, what can I expect? When you do a butterfly, you are really looking to kind of let this thing go as close as you can to expiration. We'll talk a little bit more in depth in other places about strategies and how to close a butterfly and things. You don't usually want to let it go all the way to expiration. You want to close it out sooner because you have a higher likelihood of keeping that profit that you make. But if you let it go to expiration, that is what this is telling you, that let's say that the stock goes to 280. Okay, so it overshoots our 275 target where our maximum profit is, where the peak green is right here. The peak is, let's say it goes on over, you see the profit and loss at expiration changes. I'm still making money, but if it hits 280, then I'm only making 170 bucks. Okay, still not a bad deal. But that tells you if the price ends up at XYZ spot, how much am I making or losing. Now, outside of this, you've got red. So Tesla right now is way over here, okay? And it's going to tell me that at 305, I'm actually going to lose 25 bucks theoretically. Theoretically meaning just based on what it kind of theoretically should be, not at expiration. But at expiration, I'll lose 76 bucks, okay? So and that's what I paid for this option contract down here. So that's not a terrible deal to risk $76 to make 674 bucks. That's really not a bad deal at all, but it could be better, okay? So I'm going to, and you can click and drag these flags with the strikes inside of here. So if I move this back to 280, you see how that changes? This is the beautiful thing about Tastyworks being so visual. So when I was setting up this butterfly, I said, you know what? It's Tesla. It's probably not going to stay within the expected move just because it's Tesla. So even though 270, this area was the expected move, I set up the butterfly so that we would be protected if Tesla overshot. Now we're still going to lose money on the downside, and we'll lose a little bit more because it cost more for that extra protection. Instead of 76 bucks, it's 107, okay? Our maximum profit's still pretty high, even though we're protected, $643 if it hits 275 and stays at 275. But if it overshoots, like it did, and it goes all the way up here to 305, I still make 143 bucks at expiration, okay? Not a bad deal. So basically what we did here is we minimized our losses and we maximized the likelihood that we're actually going to make money on this trade. This is what an advanced option strategy can do for you. The beautiful thing about Tastyworks is you don't have to understand every little piece of the mechanics and do the math on your own to figure out what strikes you need to pick in order to maximize your profit and have the best trade possible for you. So that is the beautiful thing. I don't think that a lot of people in the group are using this curve or understand it. And so that's why I wanted to do this, because this is a really, really powerful tool for that Tastyworks offers. All right. So any questions on that, since we kind of covered a lot there. I'm just going to look at something here real quick. All right. Cool. So last couple things, because this is the meat, and you really need to practice it and trade it a little bit to kind of get it. Let's go back to the trade table, and let's see. I had the idea to do a iron condor on Microsoft for Friday. So how would I set up an iron condor, and what do I look at? So I'm going to change this strategy to an iron condor, okay? And I am going to do a short iron condor. Basically what that means is, as I move my strikes out here, you can see the short iron condor means I want the price to stay in between a certain amount. So I want it to stay in between. In this case, it's always, you want it to stay inside of the strikes that you sold. So I'm selling a 132 put and a 142 call. So I want it to stay in between 132 and 142. All right, if I do that, I keep all the credit that I collect here whenever I sell this iron condor. So I'm going to sell this iron condor for 42 cents. And as long as it stays in between 132 and 142 by expiration, October 25th, then I keep all that 42 cents. It's beautiful. Okay. And you can really just kind of play with it. You can widen your strikes here a little bit, widen the wings out, and you can see here my probability of profit changes whenever I do that. All right, it goes up, but at a cost, right? So now your maximum loss goes up. What you're risking there, and that's always on an iron condor. That's what's going to affect your buying power, is your maximum loss. So I can collect 93 cents credit here, twice as much credit, but I'm risking a little bit more there as well. But my probability of profit goes up. Okay, so that's something to see. If we flip this to the curve, I can see it in a visual sense. So I can say, okay, if we are right here between 132 all the way up to 142, okay, then we're going to keep at expiration, we're going to keep that $93. As it gets a little bit below 132, we can still keep some of that, but you can see at a certain point, we're just going to lose money. And that way you can visually see what you should expect to keep and where your limits are as far as what you want the stock to do. So that's just a very, very, very neat. And up top here, you can see it's telling us as well, 93 bucks, 93 bucks, 93 bucks. That's your money you're keeping in negative 207. That's the money you will lose if the price goes to those strikes. All right, so I hope I have explained that well enough that everyone can understand. And my mouth's a little parched here, so I'm taking some water. But you can kind of see what's going on there. So let's see. I actually did, just to give us what we actually did here on the earnings plays, we did an iron condor with a 128, 130 on the put side and 142, 144 on the call side. 128, 130, just click and drag it. All right, and 142, 144, I believe is what I said. Yeah. So, and this was based on the price that Microsoft was at whenever I looked at this, and it ran up a little bit into close. But right now, as you can see on our overview tab, it's sitting at 137.90. So it's basically sideways after earnings. And that happens a lot of times. You know, people bought up Microsoft ahead, especially right there at the close, man. And The price after earnings, now tomorrow it's going to be a different story, but for right now it's sitting sideways. So that would basically mean that this iron condor was set up perfect, okay? And I tried to keep that outside of the expected move. And I like to keep it outside of one standard deviation because that encompasses, like I said before, 68% of the possibilities for the price to be. So I like to stay on a high percentage, 69% probability of profit there with that trade. It probably actually would have looked something like this had it been a little bit closer to close. And that 70% probability of profit on an iron condor is kind of a sweet spot number. I love seeing 70%. 60 to 65 to 70, 75% is kind of the area that I like to keep it in. All right, and then you can always manage this afterwards. We won't talk about managing trades, just the setup here on Tastyworks. Go to the curve, and you can see exactly what that looks like visually. So that's how it works. All right. So there's probably more questions that people have. Feel free to hit me up in the chat, ask all the questions that you want. This has been a pretty big overview. Oh, one last thing. All right. So let's go into positions here. And I've got on TD Ameritrade right here. Click on TD Ameritrade. This is my trade, my butterfly that I still have on, targeting 41 strike. Okay, it's been kind of sideways. It's been kind of poo-pooing me. I'm not liking it. It ran up nice after earnings, and it's still rising. Okay, but it's not getting there quite as fast as I want to. But we shouldn't lose money on this thing because it is bullish. But and we have a couple more days. But let's say that I wanted to go ahead and close this position out. So how would I do that? Now that I've got a butterfly on, here's my butterfly. How do I get rid of it? How do I close it out? So there's two ways you can do it. Usually how I close a trade out is just right over here on the overview tab. If you right click on the order that got filled, so this was the order that got filled right here at $35.35. If I right click on that and hit opposite order, it immediately opens up the trade tab, opens up a ticket, and it shows me, okay, 28-cent credit. That's what you can collect back. Okay, so that'll be losing $7. Obviously don't want to do that. I'm going to wait. But you could go ahead and say, okay, I want to go ahead and close that out for 28. And then it'll tell you, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to close this out. You're going to get this much credit back, all that, blah, 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 blah. All right. So that's how you would close it out one way. You can also do it from the positions tab. So if you click and you notice it highlights, click on each of the strikes, each of the options that you have here. Now I've got all three calls that make up a butterfly selected. And then if you right click on it, then you can go close and I can do a full amount. But what's even better on this is you can target a certain profit percentage. So like I said earlier, we usually want to close out our butterflies and iron condors early and not wait until they get all the way to expiration. You're going to make the maximum profit at expiration. But what always ends up happening is we might have a Friday dump and you're in the good and then all of a sudden you're not. And you will increase your likelihood of keeping the money that you collect, premium that you collect, or keeping the money that you expect to make on maximum profit if you close it out early. So we can target a profit percentage, right? So if my maximum profit was $600 something, then I want to target 50% of that to go ahead and close out. All right. And so this is telling me that I'm gonna make $83 on this trade. All right, because that is 50% of the maximum profit. I think it was $160 for 35. I mean, you can see how low risk that is. 35, giving up 35 cents to make 160. That's not bad. But I can close it out at half of that anytime I want, just by doing that, clicking on them and hitting a close at a target percentage. Excuse me. This is great too if you just want to buy a straight call or put and you just want to make 20% every time. So let's say I bought this call and I want to close it for 20%. Whenever it hits that, just go ahead and close it for me, Tastyworks. It'll do it. Okay. Excuse me. So you can go ahead and close out your positions very quickly like that. When we're managing our trade, let's say that it didn't work out this time, and this might happen sometimes, and maybe to not lose money, I need to roll this trade out to the future. I need to put it on a further out expiration because it's volatile right now, but it should do something different. I can roll it out to different strikes or roll it out to different expirations just at the click of a mouse there. So it's really, really easy. And then you got the analysis tab, which is going to bring me back to that analysis that we were looking at before and kind of see what's going on here. So this was my trade originally. This is where I was making the maximum profit at 41. And right now we're a little bit below that. So I'm losing some money. Okay. Obviously, if I wait till expiration, I'm going to lose, it's telling me right there, I'm going to lose $35. Right now we're right here. So I'm losing $7, but, if it goes up a little bit, even if it just gets up to, what is that, about $39.50 or so, then I'm going to double my money on that. So I gave it up for $35 and I'll make $35. So that's not bad. So I really don't need it to move very much. If it goes to 40, then I'm going to make even more. And if it goes all the way up to 41, I'm going to make $165. So that's kind of showing you, okay, you're in this trade now. What did the curve look like whenever you bought it? And that shows you. All right, so that's how you can do that. But like I say, most of the time I just go right click on the option order I just did, go opposite order, and then close it out that way. Especially if you're day trading and you want to go fast, and I've just got one call, I'll make that call, order will fill, I'll go immediately over here to hit opposite order, and I will just sit here on the order ticket with the limit price unlocked. And I'll just wait. And as soon as it hits, as soon as I want to get out, I'll just double click review and send real fast. And it'll go ahead and send that order in and usually fill immediately because executions are really fast in Tastyworks. All right, last thing, these are some settings that you need to change on your Tastyworks. So let me show you that. Excuse me. You can go anywhere that you see a gear. So I'm just going to go right up the top up here over the trade table, hit the gear. Okay, and that opens up my settings. So I'm going to go to the general settings. And the first thing that you want to change is this quote update speed. I think moderate is what it's on by default. Okay, that means everything, quotes and everything like that, prices and everything are updating every 1 second. I'm not good with that. I trade faster than that, so I want fastest. Okay, and then it's updating every 0.1 seconds, 1/10 of a second. So that's what we want. We want to go ahead and change that. And then let's see, what was the other one? There was another setting. Oh, well, yes, right here. So under the trade tab and the order tab, millisecond delay before the order is sent. This, for some reason, is set on a delay by default, 250 milliseconds or something like that. What that does is it disables when you hit review and send. It changes how quickly this send order pops up. So when I like I say, I go over here and I hit opposite order, and then this pops up, and I just very quickly double click review and send. If there's a delay on this trade order setting, there's going to be a delay when it pops up, and I'll show you that. Hit review and send. See how it delays? I'll change that a little bit to kind of show you if you've got it on half a second there. See how much delay there is there? I can't live with that. All right, because I just want to double click and I just want to get that order out there. So I'm going to put 0 delay. This is supposed to protect people who accidentally double click. All right. I know what I'm doing, so I don't need that. So see how it pops up immediately? There is no delay for me being able to click on send order. Hit review and send, immediately send orders there. There is zero delay, literally zero delay. So you can double click as fast as you want, and it's almost the same as a single click, and your order's out there. It is way faster than any other system. Honestly, it's the fastest way to buy and sell your option order right there. But you got to go into the settings under trade and order and change this delay to 0 so that you can do that. All right, there's some other settings in here that are useful for sounds and things like that. I like the sounds. Always love that sound. And then the last thing I'll go over here is Tastyworks Challenge. I've got this, showed you guys, I did the Tastyworks Challenge, made $100. This will enable you to see the Tastyworks Challenge and sign up for that and do that if you guys want to. I've got the details in the chat, so that's pretty cool there that they have that enabled. So anyways, guys, that is everything about Tastyworks that I could possibly go over in an hour. It's a lot of information, but if you plan on trading on Tastyworks or plan on doing advanced options orders, I would say that this was time well spent doing this. And so I want to congratulate you for taking the step to learn something, because a lot of people are scared of Tastyworks. But once you get comfortable with it and kind of understand why things are set up the way they are, it's really not complicated at all. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it's some very powerful tools right in front of you. And hey, we don't pay anything for the tool. They made it for us to use. So anyways, appreciate your time tonight, guys. Thank you, Kevin, for being on and staying on. And if you guys have any questions, just hit me up in the chat.